Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Drive. This week, my goal is to really help you know Jesus a little better. In fact, I'm hoping you see a side of Jesus that you've never seen before. See, I think a lot of people in our world think they have a problem with Christianity, but their problem is really with a twisted and corrupt version of Christianity. I believe that when you see Jesus for who he really is, you can't help but love him. And there's something inside you that wants to follow him and even be like him. In fact, let me give you a really good example. In Mark chapter 2, Jesus is being questioned by religious leaders on why he and his disciples won't participate in the spiritual practice of fasting. Essentially, these people who were questioning Jesus were saying, hey, if we can't eat, you guys shouldn't eat either. And if we have to be miserable, we want everyone else around us to be miserable too. And so let me ask you, have you ever been to a church that was like that? Have you ever been around Christian people who were like that? They appear to be miserable and want everyone else around them to be miserable too. Have you been around Christian people who acted like it was a sin to smile or maybe even laugh in church? Or maybe as a kid you grew up in a kind of church where people always told you to stop running. Listen, as the pastor at DCC, let me encourage parents to let their kids run in church, because I believe God isn't boring and the church shouldn't be boring either, okay? In fact, that's basically what Jesus says in response to these religious leaders who were questioning him. Now, just to be clear, Jesus saw value in fasting. In fact, at one point in his ministry, he fasted for 40 days. But here Jesus says this: how can the guest of the bridegroom fast while he's with them? Let me explain what Jesus is saying. R. Kent Hughes once wrote about this very passage, and he said after an ancient Jewish wedding, the couple didn't honeymoon, but they stayed home for a week of open house in which there was continual feasting and celebrating. For the hardworking, this was traditionally considered to be the happiest week of their lives. I want you to see what Jesus is teaching here. He wants people to know that when you are in his presence, it's not a time to fast and be somber. It's a time to celebrate and be full of joy. Guys, Christians should be happy people because Jesus is with us. And because Jesus is with us, we can have joy in our lives, regardless of the season we find ourselves in. There's always something God is doing in our life we can be grateful for, and that should be evident to everyone who's around us. And so today, I just want to encourage you to think about your attitude. Do you have happiness and joy in your life? Is that happiness and joy evident to the people who are around you? When people look at you, can they describe you as someone who's happy and joyful because of what God's doing in their life? If not, it may be time for an attitude change today so that you can grow in this area to become more like Jesus. And if you're not a follower of Jesus, as always, my prayer is that because of our time today, you would know Jesus a little better and start living like him a little more.